All right, good Friday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of your forecast. Hope everyone's enjoying that afternoon. We are almost to the weekend, and most of us had a fair bit of rain yesterday. It wasn't as much as I think most of us would like, but we won't complain about seeing even just small amounts of the moisture, especially given the time of year. We had about a third of an inch here around town in Amarillo. Lelia Lake in Miami actually saw over an inch of rain this weekend, so good for you guys there. And if you did miss out on some of the heftier totals, we still have that closed low that's going to impact our rain chances this coming Sunday. It does look like some of the numbers have started to dwindle down just a bit, but we still have high confidence that we'll at least get a little bit of rainfall this weekend. So right now you can see that upper level low continues to provide some rainfall that provided rain for us continues to move over through the Midwest right now. We are tracking this one through there in Southern California. Still looks like it's turning there north of Los Angeles. Going to continue to push into Arizona and New Mexico as we head into this weekend. Temperatures are cool, especially in the northeast where we've had a thick deck of clouds hung over the area. More sunshine in the south and west. That's why those highs are in the 60s this afternoon, but kind of a sharper gradient in those temperatures. Just depends on where those clouds are at. Those winds are still out of the northwest around 5 to 20 miles per hour. Breezier conditions in the northeast panhandles, but quieter weather as you get towards Clovis and Portales. Now, as we head into tonight, should be a cool, cold, probably foggy start to your day on Saturday, maybe even some patchy freezing fog. This is Red River. It was snowing there yesterday. You can see the roads are okay now. They had a few inches of snowfall out there. Still see a lot of that up there on top of the mountain peaks. But definitely a nice little dose of moisture for them. First official snowfall for Red River this fall. They are probably going to see some more snow on Sunday. So let's go ahead and run through the computer model. There's that ridge of high pressure continues to push south overnight tonight. Not expecting our fog to be a big concern, but maybe some patchy areas could certainly see some as we head into tomorrow morning. Saturday night, we'll see those temperatures tumble back into the 30s and 40s. And then here comes that next chance of precipitation. Again, if you are in the mountains, it will be snow. If you're here in the viewing area, it's going to be a colder rain. Temperature 38 in Clayton. Not expecting snowfall for you guys over there. But notice again, this is not a very big round of rain. We don't get several rounds of them either. And there's going to probably be some broken segments in here where totals are less than impressive, just maybe a few hundredths of an inch of rain. There's going to be some strips through here as well, though, that probably pick up 3 or 4 tenths of an inch of rainfall, just depending on where some of those stronger showers and maybe even some weak thunderstorms will push across the area. So coverage not going to be, I think, complete, but most of us, I think, will see some rainfall. We're going to stick with about a 70% chance for anything measurable in Amarillo for today. As far as the chances for maybe more significant amounts, those are the numbers that have really started to kind of dwindle over the last 24 hours. So this is your probability to get to a half inch of rain on Sunday from midnight to midnight. You can see there's a 50% chance for Clovis, Portales, and Tucumcari, and then that drops off pretty quick as you get down towards Amarillo and Tulia, down I-27. Maybe some weaker thunderstorms around Childress and Paducah could maybe help support some of those higher pops, but the coverage don't think is going to be as widespread as it was this past week. And then a very low chance towards Canadian, Perryton, and Diamond, Oklahoma. Only a 10% chance that you'll actually get to a half inch of rainfall. So after that, we've got a cold front that's going to come through for Tuesday into Wednesday. Burdens of having to share a studio, people running through the rundown for the 5 o'clock show. I guess we'll call it a sneak peek for you guys. But we are going to have a cold front come through on Tuesday. That's going to leave us probably below average for our highs on Wednesday and Thursday as we get into Thanksgiving Day. That's due to this big ridge, or I'm sorry, this big trough of low pressure out here over the Great Lakes and the New England area. That's going to sweep across the northern part of the country. So we really don't anticipate precipitation in that window. We might see some really light flurries behind that colder front, but it does not look like it's going to be enough to become measurable. So if you see a few flakes fly maybe Wednesday night into Thursday morning, that's about all we expect behind that frontal boundary. Not expecting anything measurable. So that's why we don't have a pop that you'll see not mentioned in the 7-day forecast. But as we move into the first week of December, a lot of our ensembles and a lot of our teleconnections are really suggesting they are strongly starting to tilt towards having a large trough dig across the western half of the country. Whether this is a closed low or just a big, very deep open wave trough is still something we are trying to figure out at this point. This is about 7 to 10 days out from now. So there's a lot of blurriness in as far as the details, nitty gritty details of the forecast are concerned. If to broad brush things, that first week of December, we are likely going to see unsettled weather of some kind, whether that is rain, storms, potentially severe weather, maybe even some winter weather, or even the dry slot of this trough, and we get some really high winds and maybe some fire concerns. I think are certainly things that could be on the table. It's just a matter of what we will be dealing with is what we're trying to figure out. But the big synoptic scale sign of a trough out here is very, very clear. In fact, I want to go ahead and show you what some of our teleconnections are telling us about that Pacific North American oscillation. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over. This is the European ensemble. The PNA, the Pacific North American oscillation, is just a really good indicator to figure out that large scale pattern across the continental US. Where's the trough? Where's the ridge? When this number is positive, that is when our troughs are in the East Coast. That's when we get northwest flow aloft. We get a ridge out in the desert southwest. In the wintertime, that's a very quiet pattern for us. We can get frequent cold fronts, but they're dry fronts. We don't have any moisture to pull in from the Gulf or from the Pacific. And so we tend to just have these drier frontal boundaries, just create this bit of a roller coaster ride in our temperatures. And as we move into a negative phase for the PNA, or a negative number down here, and you can see as we get out in time, closer to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th of December, a lot of the ensembles are starting to tilt in that direction, which would suggest that there's most of them are suggesting a big trough is going to be on the western half of the country rather than the eastern half. If we take a look at the GFS, this is just the American model, kind of a neutral phase up through Thanksgiving, and then it just kind of tilts negative. And you've got, so here's your top 25, top quartile. This is your middle 50th percentile here in the blue shades, and in the bottom half of these are your bottom quartile. So you can see like anywhere from 75 to about 90% of these have a trough on the 2nd of December. So that would be the probably indicator that maybe we have some active weather coming through in that time frame. That gives us that southwesterly flow that provides us with that Pacific moisture aloft, and if we can get a ridge further east, especially at the surface, that pulls in some of that Gulf moisture as well. So this is something I definitely think is going to be on the back burner and definitely on the back of our minds moving closer to December. We won't talk specifics about it, but just know that there is this trough that's probably going to take shape around that 2nd or 3rd of December, meaning that we could have potentially some active weather here in the high plains. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the Climate Prediction Center has to say. As far as precipitation goes, between the 29th of November and the 5th of December, they are growing more and more confident that maybe some moisture is possible here in the plains region. Where exactly they think maybe a slightly better favored area for precipitation would be from Colorado up towards the Dakotas, and then probably a better chance for maybe some storminess and maybe even some severe weather with that trough out here in the Mississippi River Valley from the breadbasket of America all the way down through Louisiana. They do have us in a 40% probability to be above normal. Our threshold is relatively low. It's just a 10th to 1/1200th of an inch of precipitation. So it's not like we need much moisture to get into the green. So that's something I do want you to take with a grain of salt. But the thing about this is there could be quite a bit of cold air bottled up that's drugged south over the next couple of weeks. And if that trough does have a lot of deep cold air aloft with it, then we start talking about not necessarily just rain, especially in the higher elevations here compared to areas like the rolling plains. So it's from the ensemble standpoint today, this afternoon, I've got you 3 columns and categories. Over here on the left, we've got the amount of ensemble members or the percent of ensemble members that have us with measurable snow within that time frame. And then in the middle, you've got measurable snow, or rather an inch or more of snow in that time frame. And then these three columns over here on the right are 5 inches or more of snow. And we picked those three numbers, one, because it's measurable. This is when we start getting into winter weather advisory criteria here in the middle. And then our winter storm warning criteria in Amarillo is 5 inches or more within a 24-hour period. So that's kind of the details and the specifics that we use to factor in these percentages that you see here in the Meteogram. But the Euro, about 66% of the ensembles show winter precipitation between November 29th and December 5th. That could be 10 inches of snow, it could be a tenth of an inch of snow, but 66% of them say measurable snow is possible. And as we get into the Canadian and the American model, confidence not as high, but still right around a 40% chance that we will have maybe some measurable snowfall in that first week of December. Really, probably that second, third, or fourth is when most of these models are starting to highlight this potential window. As we get into the winter weather advisory criteria, confidence obviously starts to decrease. You're getting to a higher threshold for winter weather, but about half of the members in the European ensemble show at least an inch of snow for us. And then again, you get some really low pops, but mentionable, around 14%, show we could have maybe a more significant event. Just two of the members in the GFS ensemble were showing a pretty significant amount of winter weather for us in the early part of December. Not going to jump to conclusions. I just want you guys to know that it's maybe something that we need to talk about moving through next week. If, again, this system takes a more northerly track, we could be in the dry slot of the storm system, but probably still very windy. If that happens, it's going to be warmer, it's going to be dry, and it's going to be windy. Those are our three key ingredients for fire weather concerns. So regardless of if we even see winter weather or not in December, especially that first few days of the month, I think it's going to be a window where we still have some active weather. It just may not be snowfall that we're talking about, but definitely something to pay attention to. So here's our 7-day tracker. We've got you with a 70% chance of rain on Sunday. Again, I don't think it's going to be complete coverage for rainfall for us, but I think a lot of us will at least have something measurable, even if it is just a few hundredths of an inch of precipitation. Now, getting to that half-inch benchmark that we showed you earlier, our odds here in Amarillo drop pretty drastically, around 20 to 30%. So most models keep us under a half-inch of rainfall. As we get into the middle of part of next week, that colder air starts to seep in and settle into the area. We are expecting some pretty cold mornings down below freezing, 30 degrees Wednesday morning, 27 Thursday morning on Thanksgiving, and 25 there on Friday morning for Black Friday. But the afternoons will be a bit more bearable, but we do expect probably Tuesday and Wednesday for our temperatures to be below average. But we will get back up to near normal as we head into next weekend. And then as we get closer to maybe next Sunday and the week following is when that potential change in the pattern could come to fruition. That's all I've got for you guys this afternoon. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to hit that like button. We've got a show tonight at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock, so we look forward to seeing you on TV then.